All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Kettle Moraine Lutheran High School. For the benefit of all of our folks joining us virtually and because I value your time, we'll get started right on time. It is 7 o'clock. My name is Joe Griefkes. It is my privilege to serve as KML's Director of Activities. They changed my title this year. You can still call me KML's AD, that's fine, but they put Director in front of Activities. So here I am, fifth year in ministry, fifth year overall here at KML, 15th year serving in our Wisconsin Synod. So welcome to KML, welcome to the KML family. Athletics in high school is awesome, super exciting. This is what I wanted to do my whole life, so I am very privileged to get to be KML's Director of Activities, very privileged to get to be our head track and field coach here and a teacher within the classroom. I know a lot of you, and I'm also much looking forward to getting to know more of you throughout your child's high school career. I promise I will attempt to answer a lot of questions today. I will not answer all your questions today or the next month or maybe even the next whole season, but I guess my number one plea is that you reach out. Feel free to reach out to myself, my activities assistant, Mrs. Michelle Zock, which is everything KML Clubs, KML Fine Arts, KML Activities, or my athletic assistant, who is Mrs. Amy Noss. Been serving here at KML for a very long time. She is the front communication for a lot of the info you've received and a lot of the information you will receive going forward here during your child's given season. So welcome again. If you're joining us virtually, we are excited to have you and excited to offer this as an option. I'll put a plug out there. Thank you to Mr. Rabbers and our KML Videography Club. They did a lot for us last year during COVID. As a necessity, and what a blessing that they're continuing to make such options available to our families in this upcoming school year as well. So thank you to them. If you have questions, please hold them till afterwards and be bold enough to come up to the microphone. It is off right now, but feel free to turn it on if you have a question for the betterment of the group. If you'd rather talk to me afterwards, that's certainly fine too. I'll be here all night. If you're joining us virtually, we did disable the chat function just because it's a little too much to manage in meeting. But feel free to send myself or anyone else in my department an email afterwards. So I like to start where Mr. Zemer starts. So some of this will likely be redundant for you because you've probably had a tour or two of KML, but we like to stay grounded. We believe a lot in building your trust, and we firmly believe in the exit outcomes that you see in front of us. I think if you talk to our alumni, and maybe they have kids here, maybe they don't quite yet, maybe they will someday, I would hope that they're going to say that KML equipped them to be growing and proclaiming Christians, lifelong learners, collaborative contributors, discerning thinkers, servant leaders, and dedicated stewards. These are our exit outcomes, and they're not just words on a wall, words on a poster. They are words that we certainly buy into, and we hope that all of our coaches and our teachers certainly model them. Servant leadership is something that's kind of becoming more popular in our society, right? You hear about servant leadership even in the secular world. What a blessing that we can talk about the Christian role model coaches that we have here at KML, the Christian athletes that we are blessed to get to serve, and the athletes that get to represent our school. All the folks of KML, we are the one KML team. Hopefully you've heard the phrase KML family or KML culture. It's something that we believe in and we strive for, and we're thankful that we've earned a reputation, which is a positive reputation, for being the KML family. You're going to see this One KML logo a little bit more this year for some of you who have been around for a while. One KML is similar to the KML family, except it means that internally we're being more intentional about our One KML family, and more connectedness, more communication, more dialogue. We just went through a year of training from a group called Grace in Action, and they really helped us hone in on our strengths, what we're gifted at, and empowering others within our group to pursue their gifts and talents. And so that trickles all the way down, we hope, to our students as well. We're having in-service all week, and this One KML theme has really centered us. We've had meetings where we've invited everyone all the way down to our janitors, not that they're at the bottom, they're part of our KML family, but never before have we had maintenance folks and janitors part of our faculty professional development. And so it's an intentional shift which we hope that all of our families we serve are going to see as well. So, true leadership, right? We think about leaders serving others. We think about going to that other person and speaking the truth in love. We think about doing the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing. Matthew 5 gives us a lot of direction, letting our light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So it's an encouragement throughout the year to support our officials, support our coaches, be a great fan, attend tons and tons of games. What a blessing post-COVID, per se, right? That we can say, we want you here for any and every event we have. I'll talk later on about attendance at admissions and the blessings of us kind of going back to normal. So we encourage you to be positive at our events, be enthusiastic here or on the road. Just remember, student athletes and parents, that you represent our school, and that's a positive thing, right? But that's also a responsibility that you represent our school and who we are. I would encourage you, we don't want to bury concerns, problems, issues. We want to be a school that encourages you to bring those concerns, issues, problems, whatever they may be, to our leadership's attention. So athletes, it's going to start with captains, captain leadership, maybe assistant coach who you feel comfortable talking to, ultimately your program level coach. Maybe it gets to the level of, well, you need to take it to the head varsity coach. Then beyond that, feel free, my door's always open. Come and talk to me, and I'd love to be part of that solution. The 24-hour rule is something that I encourage you just to think about, right? I'm a parent of 4 children, so I'll be the first to admit I've flown off the handle before. I think we all lose our patience, right? In certain moments, and after we have some time to think through things, we're able to process a little bit more. We're able to decide who I should talk to, when I should talk to them, and maybe where it's appropriate to have a discussion with them. So I'd encourage you to think about, something that occurs 7:30 during a varsity game. Maybe sit on it overnight. Now, of course, if it's emergent, let's talk about it right away. But I would encourage you to process before we decide to bring it forward right away. COVID, you feel like has to be at the front end of things, right? And so I certainly want to put an emphasis on what we are doing. So we don't want word to get out that KML's rogue, and KML's just doing whatever they want. We don't care about health and safety at all. It's anything but that. And we put countless hours into writing policy and procedure like a lot of the world did last year. Tens of thousands of dollars into upping our sanitation processes and hiring more folks to keep our facilities clean. More hand sanitation stations, more signage and what have you. And so none of that has changed. We still are focused 100% on being a healthier and cleaner campus. And so I want you to go into this year with that certainty that we are absolutely taking yours and your child's health and safety very seriously. So we're going to follow the Washington Ozaukee County Health Department guidelines, and they've been a great resource for us, and we will continue to lean on them. We will also look to, of course, the WIA for their rules and regulations. We will tell you that in the postseason, it may look a little different than it does during the regular season. Obviously, our conference has a say in kind of how we act, especially during conference games. When we go to non-conference sites, they have a say in what their policy and procedure is. Ultimately, the WIA has said this year it falls on the academic institution. And so they encourage us to confer with our county health department. Of course, they want us to follow their rules, but ultimately what they've said is you're up to your academic policies, your leadership, your local leadership, and then beyond that, during the WIA postseason, so once we get into tournament time, there may be different guidelines. They may limit attendance. They may mandate masks. So we just don't know, honestly, because the WIA has not said yet what their tournament requirements will be. They've promised 30 days out from an event that we will know more. We do not plan to limit spectator attendance. If you live in Washington County, Ozaukee County, this immediate area, you know that's pretty much the norm now. We participate in a lot of different, I'll just say, summer basketball leagues, and so most of the public schools in our area are very much doing the same thing. Now I know you've heard different things in the news and different things out of different school districts. I just want you to know right now, we do not plan to limit spectator attendance. Masks at this point, we're following what the WIA said, that they are optional. Certainly, the CDC would still encourage use of masks. We are hanging our hat on the word optional because we believe it's up to our folks to make the best decision for them. So that pertains to coaches, athletes, and spectators at this point. We're going to reinforce obvious things like you maybe saw on some of the big banners when you came in. They're still around school. Please monitor your symptoms. Please stay home if you're sick. Please use common sense. That's really what it boils down to. If you are COVID positive, athlete, parent, spectator, again, we encourage you to do a 7-day quarantine. The WIA would say this is certainly allowable. This is what a lot of our schools within the state are doing. They're going to go 7 days with a negative COVID test and, of course, symptom-free. That's if you are positive or you have a close family member who is positive or assumed positive. Vaccinated individuals and those that have had COVID within 3 months are exempt from quarantine, and that's following our Washington-Ozaukee County Health Department guidelines. The ultimate goal for tonight is for me to take you through the handbook and for me to answer any questions you might have today and afterwards. So if you have a handbook, it pretty much goes sequentially, so feel free to page along. We'll start off with program information. I assume you know a lot about KML, right? Because you've decided to have your child come here. I know some of you, you have had other children already move through KML. So we're excited to have you back. I don't want to insult what you may already know, but maybe you don't. We've got a lot of different sport offerings, 15 of them, 34 separate squads. We've been blessed just in 4 short years that have preceded this year for me to be able to add girls golf, to be able to add another level of boys soccer, to be able to add other activities here at KML, such as robotics. And so what a blessing that we continue to grow as a student population and continue to add offerings. We are members of the WIA and the East Central Conference, which some of you know is one team smaller now. Campbellsport has put in to move to another conference that was approved through WIA process, so Campbellsport, we will no longer play in conference competition. We will play them still in some non-conference stuff. So we are one school less in the ECC. Sports fees, I believe you're aware of most of those, but they are a different kind of by sports that are naturally more expensive, like football, $75. I won't spend much time on that. Admission, we are charging admission again, as is all of the ECC, as is most of the state of Wisconsin, so we've gone back to old admissions practices. Nothing is online. Everything is in person, so we'll have cash boxes out, we'll have volunteers, we will have admissions for volleyball, for football and basketball, and then also some postseason events for other sports. We are reinstating our all sports pass, family and individual, and also grandparent passes. So if you have grandparents, they are free to anything and everything. Just a salute, I guess, a thanks for the blessings which are our grandparents, and so they get in free to anything and everything. Here at KML, obviously on the road, that's going to be a little bit different. If you're interested in an all-sports family or individual pass, feel free to, number one, you could take care of that at freshman orientation, or you can talk to myself or Mrs. Nass, and we can help you at any point. We're in the office. But parent orientation for school is kind of the next formal time where those will be for sale. KMLChargers.com is our athletic website. It's where a lot of you grade school parents who have maybe not had a kid in high school before have seen most of our info come out. When we post on KMLChargers.com, a provider called VNN automatically shoots our post to Facebook and to Twitter. So anything I post, Mrs. Nas posts, any of our coaches posts after score reporting and updates of given events, it automatically goes to our website, and then we trickle it out via social media. It has practice schedules there, game schedules. What a blessing now that we're at a point where the schedule's not so crazy and all over the place, that things are going to be more accurate. So I want to just put a plug in there. It's always live, it's always real time, so it is a good site for you to refer to. If you go to the More tab, full transparency, we were not happy about this internally when VNN, our provider, changed everything to a More tab, because we used to be able to have a lot more tabs and control that. And if you had a child here maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you might say it was a little easier to find stuff on KMLChargers.com. It's still there, but now it's buried under the More tab. So if you go to More, you'll see a huge drop-down list. So if you can't find it from the standard tabs, you will find it under the More tab. The ECC website, which is the same thing as what you see up there for the hyperlink, eastcentralconferencewisconsin.org, that is our master calendar. This is not just athletics. It's kind of complex, but ultimately, Our School Today, which you see their logo there, and that's an app I would highly encourage you to download. Our School Today is the master athletic scheduler for the whole state of Wisconsin. So anytime ADs talk with me and they say, hey, Joe, you want to play slinger on this date for girls varsity volleyball, they will send me a contract. Of course, talking with coaches, then I either approve or deny a contract. As soon as I do that, it automatically adds it to our schedule. If it's baseball season and Ripon calls me and says, we're canceling, I go in, make the change, it copies real time. So what I'm trying to say is this is the ultimate KML Bible calendar, if you will. It's the calendar that Mr. Pasbrick says, hey, choir stuff is changing, I now need to reserve the PAC. Okay, it's going to be in there. It's a little overwhelming if some of you have seen it, right? Because for a given day, it could be this long for events that are going on. But if you ever need to know what's going on at KML for this Friday or Saturday, it's all in there. There's too much information, but it's all there. You can itemize by sport. So you can pull out varsity volleyball, practices, games, etc. It's all there. So it's called the Activity Scheduler or Our School Today. Most often I've seen it called Activity Scheduler. I just switched from Android to Apple. I believe it's called the same thing in both. I think it is Activity Scheduler. But you'll see that hat logo, the RST logo, and then all you have to do is search for Kettle Moraine Lutheran, and it will automatically set you all up and you're good to go. So that's my number one encouragement. Download the app, have it on your phone. It can tell you whatever you need to know at any point in time. Now, I expect my coaches to reiterate over and over again. Not that I want them to beat you up with email, but I expect them to be good communicators, to remind you of any practice changes, any game changes, any tournament changes, any postseason changes. We do our best on a higher level on social media to put out any of the big stuff, any of the huge changes, but refer back to that calendar because that is the master calendar. And if you feel like you have a coach who's keeping you out of the loop, certainly feel free to speak with myself or Mrs. Noss, and we certainly want to get that cleaned up for you. Transportation details are there. On campus, space use. Off campus, where locations are. Sometimes varsity and JV are in different spots. That happens a lot with different schools like Plymouth, where you might have your freshman game on one field and JV and varsity on another field. So just make sure you certainly pay attention to those details. Again, we expect coaches to bring them to your attention, but our master calendar should have all the details, because remember that it's tied to the contract where the ADs are forced to enter their location, the time, the date, all those relevant details. Charger Club, you're a part of it. Welcome. We're glad to have you. All KML family members are part of Charger Club. If you want to help out, to volunteer in any way above and beyond your two, what I call forced volunteer sessions, we certainly would love to have your help. Every 2 years we have a new election of officers. So I'll tell you right now, most of my officers during COVID, when we couldn't really do any fundraisers, we couldn't really do, if you've been to our trivia night or our Kettle Clomp 5K, a lot of those things got canceled. So this is very much a group that does the extra things for KML, and I'm excited that next week we'll get going again and we'll get things basically restarted after a year of that group being pretty silent. So all parents are part of Charger Club. You're free to volunteer and help out, have a say whenever you want. You're welcome to our meetings. If you want to be an officer and serve in a little deeper capacity, I can put you in touch with Kay Wagner, who is going to be our chairman again for this year. So Charger Club promotes development and general welfare of KML, student family involvement and interest in co-curricular. Like if we go to state, they're going to be the ones that are going to help with potentially banners and maybe towels, flags, any of the you-rah-rah stuff. Sometimes they're there to hand out beads. Besides hosting a lot of different things like our plant sale, I already mentioned our trivia night and some of our other events, they are a really awesome group of folks, and I'm thankful for them. More information, I'll just bounce down to the bottom point there. If you go to kmlhs.org/charger club, there is more information for you if you are interested. All right, student athletes. So I would highly encourage you, number one, to skim through our athletic handbook. I'm very much a realist. If you are a reader, great, read the whole thing. If you're not, and you're like most people, please skim through it. That's part of the point of tonight. Like, I know you're probably not going to read the whole handbook, so I try to bring bigger things to your attention. So student athletes, dual participation is one thing that in season, so let's just say if you're a softball player, you're girls softball, and you're also on a club softball team, chances are you probably have a lot of club softball that happens before or after the season, but in season, you are a KML softball athlete. Now, are you still a softball player for your club team? Sure, but there is a limitation to the amount of club softball events that you can be involved in. And so it was 2. During COVID, they changed it to 3. My understanding is now they're going to bounce it back down to 2, but that is all with school approval. So if you're club volleyball and there's a crossover and you still want to go to Las Vegas to be in a volleyball tournament, but the regular season is in play, there is a form that you need to fill out to get school approval to be able to do that. And so that dual participation, certainly something that some of our athletes do. We would certainly encourage our students to be multi-sport athletes, but we're not saying anything negative about dual participation athletes either, except we got to be really careful with events that you're involved with. Practice is a different thing, and I would just encourage our athletes and parents to be wise of how much time and energy our athletes are giving to multiple sports and school and jobs and family and friends all at the same time. And of course, you are the leader of your family, and so you have the best gauge for that, and we are in no way trying to circumvent that, just encouraging you to be wise about how many things your children do at one point in time. Athletes, we encourage you to get involved. We've got a lot of different offerings in a lot of different seasons here throughout the school year, so get involved. We try to have something for everyone, and we try to continually add things to meet the needs of our students. Our students can make activity proposals. If we have students who they go along in a year and they realize, I didn't do anything, I really think this would be cool. We do have an activity proposal process that goes through me and goes through our administrative council, where we will say yes or no to a given activity. So our students are part of that. Our parents are part of that, and they can propose new activities as well. So we want you to feel empowered, like you have a say as well, yet we also have a process here for good order, because we need a budget, right? We need coaches, we need a schedule, we need funds for other things, and so there is a reality to it as well. So we want to empower you, but we also need to have, obviously, a little bit of control in that as well. Multi-sport athletes are highly encouraged here at KML. I'm not going to click on that link, but it's a Friday fast fact from the WIA that basically says if you're a multi-sport athlete, you're going to see lower risk of injury along with a whole lot of other benefits. Generally, lower dropout rates, more involved. Obviously, that all trickles down. So just want to highly encourage you to be not just a one-sport athlete, but go for being a 2 or 3 sport athlete if you can handle it. Standards of behavior. It's also in the student handbook. So I will tell you that our student handbook and our athletic handbook in the past didn't always talk to each other. We have made sure that we've done a good job of making sure that our policies within our student handbook are reflected in the athletic handbook, especially when it concerns eligibility or ineligibility and incomplete status at the end of quarters or semesters. So all that language is exactly the same. Myself, along with our Director of Student Services, who is Josh Shanick, we are kind of the gatekeepers of all that information. Sometimes it trickles down to our Director of Student Culture, who this year is Mr. Dan Albrecht. So if there's anything involving, a party or vaping or misuse of social media, just know that Mr. Albrecht and Mr. Leering, our president, will be involved in that. But I'd highly encourage you, look at that standards of behavior section. It's referred to as training rules, and just a reminder that they're in effect year-round. Training rules are not something that go away in the summer, and so ultimately our training rules speak to the Christian behavior that we're preaching about, in chapel, talking about in the classrooms, and echoing on our athletic fields. Our athletes are expected to be highly committed and to be great communicators. We do have a policy, it sounds kind of heavy-handed, but for students who quit a sport or any activity, we do have a policy basically to talk about it, to have an opportunity for me to hear a student athlete out or a student who's involved in activities and talk about what was the reasoning, what was the rationale for them quitting. Now, there's a lot of different scenarios. We've had kids who have serious injuries who go, hey, I can't do this, I can't be involved, I'm going to spend more time working instead of sitting in my wheelchair on the sideline. Now we've had the other side. We've had kids who have debilitating injuries who want to be there for the full ride throughout the season. So quitting has a lot of different reasons, obviously, and ultimately we want to encourage our students to stay involved. And I want to understand when our students do quit something, well, what was the reason for that? So our policy is basically if we go through many meetings and many steps and it's just decided that, well, they just quit because they just wanted to quit, they just didn't want to be part of it, then there is a policy that says they may not be able to participate in the next activity. I can tell you the time I've been here, it's happened one time, and it was due to some very extenuating circumstances. So in general, it's something that is justified and we're able to work through it. All right, we have a couple different words that you're going to see in the Code of Conduct section in our athletic handbook. One is unbecoming conduct. And unbecoming conduct basically would mean that you're not faithfully representing your school in either the classroom, on the field, or in some other vein. So it may lead to suspension. This would be a pattern of incomplete homework where it's just continuing on and on and on and teachers can't get a hold of it. Truancy, where we've had it, believe it or not, before, where students are just out for 3-4 weeks and there's no real reason why. Hazing, etc. There's a long, exhaustive list in our athletic handbook. The other terminology would be conduct violations, and these are the ones that will result in suspension. So this is the use, possession, buying, selling of alcohol, drugs, hosting of parties, all of those things, all the obvious things. So the first offense is 20% loss of participation, second is 50%, third or fourth may lead to complete loss of participation in career. This is what I like talking about the least. I like to say it never happens, but it happens. We all know that we all have sinful natures and we all fall into things we know we shouldn't be involved in. And so just an encouragement, I tend to be an optimist, and so I like to encourage rather than just say, oh, we got this policy, you better follow it or watch out. My encouragement is faithfully represent your Savior and represent your school. Involve yourself in conduct that is God-pleasing and avoid what is not, knowing that you've got a group of Christian leaders who are willing to forgive you like we need to be forgiven and willing to work with you along the way as well as decisions occur. So just some things to make you aware of. I've already said kind of point number one. Point number two, I guess, hopefully it was implied, but it applies to all activity groups. So this is not just athletes. This is anyone who's part of a KML club, fine arts, and all the way through the gamut there. Out of season violations, they trickle over to the next season. So if it happens in summer, fall is up next. I have never experienced someone purposely try to join a sport to get rid of a suspension, but it has happened. And I'm aware of it happening at other schools more so than at KML. So that is a blessing. Thankful for that. But just know that we do have policies for such things. I think this is one probably our young student athletes who are in here have heard quite a bit, right? So I don't want to beat you up about it, but really it comes back to using social media in a positive way to build up your fellow athletes and not tear them down. I want to say 9 times out of 10, when one of our leaders has to get involved in social media, it's usually involving so-and-so who doesn't like so-and-so and has dragged them through the mud and is doing something negative towards them. I would encourage you, refrain from any of those social media posts that you know are not going to positively reflect on yourself, your team, or your school. If you come across improper social media use, please feel free to pass it on and know that it will be anonymous. Ultimately, we want all of our kids to feel like they can talk to us. We want to be relatable as teachers and as coaches. We don't want our kids to feel like they're narcs, but there's a reality. When you have a friend or a teammate who is letting themselves down or letting their team down. And so we certainly want to be made aware of anything that is negatively reflecting on an individual or KML as a whole. So please feel like you can talk to our Director of Student Culture, Dan Albrecht, Mr. Albrecht, or myself, or any of your coaches. A couple risk management things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Basically, this is the paperwork that we ask you to fill out. That is a requirement that needs to be filled out. Please be sure that you get it in before your program starts tryouts or practices, etc. That is kind of the drop-dead date. So if you're a football athlete, you're already too late. We didn't have any issues with football players. We're all good to go. But obviously, we have those other fall sports that are upcoming. So if you are a fall sport athlete, please make sure you are good to go. Just a reminder to double-check if you are here in person to make sure you've got everything in. If you are unsure and you're watching this virtually now, my encouragement would be email us. Let us know. Mrs. Noss is the gatekeeper of everything. She clears all of our athletes before they can participate. She tells all of our coaches, hey, your whole team's good to go, or no, I've got 3 people that can't practice today. So I help with it a little bit, but her and the coaches are really the gatekeepers of that. So please make sure you get it all in. Insurance, this is an important point. Obviously, we've had injuries here. We've had all sorts of stuff. Had a first in my head coach track career. Had to call the ambulance to come down to the track for poor Aiden Martin, whom some of you know, who had an injury in track, and it happens. Just remember that it's important for you to have adequate coverage, that KML does not provide insurance for participants. Travel stuff, written permission should always be given anytime a student athlete is not traveling on school-provided transportation. So it happens a lot in volleyball, Saturday invites. It happens in other sports as well. But coaches need to do a really good job of communicating with parents and vice versa. This can be email. So in track, I just expect that I get emails from anyone who's not riding the bus. Please assume that most coaches want your athletes on the bus for any and every athletic event or the van. If there's any extenuating circumstances, like I remember someone, well, we have a vacation and we're coming back at such and such a time, the bus is leaving earlier, can we bring them right there? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes, but please make sure that the coaches are aware. It's always good for us, negligence-wise, to make sure we have stuff in written form. Physical risk, obviously, is something that's in sport, and so it's not meant to scare any participants away or parents from to encourage parents to pull their kids out of sports, but it is a reality of participating, just that your children are exposing themselves to potential risks. This is all the fine print that you just sign off on, right? We have a wonderful athletic trainer, Nicole Volkman. I know a lot of you have had experience with her. We're blessed to have her on board. Sign her contract for the next couple years. So our goal is to keep Nicole here because she is great. She is a wonderful communicator with myself, our coaches, our parents, our athletes. She is a wonderful go-to person if you don't even have, I mean, of course, at this point you have athletes here, but if you also have students, athletes, or yourself who you want something checked out, they are great. They do Nicole will do free injury analysis if she's not busy. Anytime during office hours, anytime she's on a field and she's not busy, she will analyze anything and everything as part of what Aurora Sports provides for us. So she will be at most events. Nicole provides sideline competition coverage. Sometimes she might be inside for volleyball, and we'll contract another trainer to be outside for soccer. Lots of times, if there's 3 soccer games going on, she'll set up at varsity, but then coaches know to get over there if any injuries occur. So just know that there'll always be a trainer somewhere during an athletic competition. She will work with physicians for referrals and follow-ups. So sometimes it starts with her and she generates it. Other times, obviously, you might take your child into your primary doctor and then it may come back to Nicole. She's very good about helping with PT, about implementing a plan, about keeping coaches involved in injury protocol and clearing athletes when it's appropriate. And so just know that she's a piece of this, and she does a really good job at what she does. I think I said most of this. Training room, our training room's small. A lot of you know that. So we try to keep it to 3 or less in there at a time. We ask that our athletes sign up before they come into the room, so she has a laptop right outside of there. During COVID, we had QR codes for kids to check in. Now it's just as simple as we just need you to type some basic information in about what's going on and your name, and then Nicole will see you. This is a big one. Anytime a student is absent from any period during the school day, they cannot participate in that event. Now, there are extenuating circumstances, of course. There's doctor's appointments, there's college visits, there's funerals, there's vacations. Basically, make sure that your information is getting cleared by either the front office or myself. I'm the one that handles all the extenuating circumstances. So if you're unsure about the situation and whether your child can play that night or not, shoot the email to me. In the past, Pastor Hughes, our pastor of student life, kind of helped handle that. Our new protocol is everything comes to me, and then if I need to involve our director of student culture, Dan Albrecht, I'll involve him to get his blessing as we sign off on athletes participating. So the key is students need to attend every period. If you slept in first hour, it is what it is. Chances are that one's not getting pushed through. So just be really, obviously, wise about your absences. Be a dedicated student. Make sure parents are helping your students communicate. That last point might seem odd, but we're stressing that we are an in-person educational organization. And so we feel that we're the best at that. Meaning that is the best of what we do. We are meant to be in person. And so as we go through maybe another turbulent year, who knows, we continue to push the fact that we are an in-person institution. We heard lots of good feedback during COVID that we did a great job. And certainly we worked through a lot as well, but we are meant to be in person here for a lot of different reasons, and that's the biggest thing we're going to continue to push. So last year was kind of, well, virtual, not virtual, back and forth. We're saying, nope, we're in person, and there are very few outliers that might have virtual needs, and that ultimately would get cleared by others and kind of passed down through activities, folks, and teachers. Student-to-teacher communication is probably the biggest rub during a given athletic season, where a teacher feels like they don't know what's going on, or they thought the team was leaving at 2:05 and really they had to leave at 1:45, or a host of other things. So students, please communicate well. We hope that our teachers, our coaches communicate well, but you are a piece of that puzzle. So if you're going to be absent for something, if something has come up in your schedule, please make sure that your teacher knows. Coaches and front office are supposed to be the ones that communicate out, hey, this team leaves at this time. Please dismiss them. That always happens, but sometimes as teachers get caught up in the craziness, they may not remember, because there might be one day they might teach 7 periods, and there may be 50 kids who they have going different directions. So it's up to our student athletes to be really, really good communicators and help remind their teachers of absences and make up their homework in a timely fashion. Eligibility stuff, this is more WIAA stuff, but I do have to say it that our student athletes may not receive cash reimbursement in any form or a salary for participating. School mementos cannot exceed $200, so I'm not going to be handing out any Jordans to who I think would be really good basketball players the next year. That's a no-no, something you can't do. Any award valued at more than $100. You can argue, what does that really mean? I don't know. This is WIA policy, and so just general reminders if any of this ever comes up. Of course, our students can receive medals, cups, trophies, plaques, all that good stuff. Any student who's enrolled and is participating has their eligibility multiplied out over their 4 years. As long as they maintain a 1.6 GPA, they are good to go. Of course, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, yep, we would challenge you to do, you can certainly do better, but that is what our Director of Student Services would then flag if we have any students that have 2 Fs or a 1.6 GPA, incomplete or ineligibility stuff is going to be coming forth. So an encouragement as quarters shift, as semesters change, and as sports might be between both of them, make sure that you're getting all your incomplete work in on time. Don't let it hang over until the next semester. And make sure you're a good communicator with your teachers, and you should be good to go. Any school event closings will come through our main office, through our president or one of our other directors. And so just know that info is going to come out as KML school info. But please do not assume that just because school is canceled because of a snow day, that the athletic event that occurs later that evening is also canceled. There are many times where school might be canceled because the first 3 hours of the day looks really bad, but then plows are going to get out, and we feel good about a 5:45 start time. So please pay attention to calendar, to social media notifications, to emails from coaches, because, again, if school is closed, other things may very well still be going on. We do our best to communicate as soon as possible. If it's a day of cancellation, just know that you will get a power alert through PowerSchool. You will likely see it on social media, and you should receive something from your child's coach as well. We make announcements over the PA for the students as well when it happens the day of, just so we make sure they hear it. And again, that's usually followed up with an email and social media. Uniforms, just general care. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this. Basically, just take care of our stuff, turn it in on time. It's really quite simple. If you're willing to volunteer, like I said, there's those 2 forced volunteer dates. We'll just call them what they are, but we're happy that you're a part of helping us run what takes a lot to run. And it's a blessing that we have parents who are willing and able to move around work schedules, and so we're very thankful for that, if that is the case. If you want to help above and beyond your 2 given events while you're in that particular season, certainly feel free to reach out to myself, Mrs. Noss, again, Kay Wagner, Charger Club. There are always more opportunities to serve. If you want to help keep stats for football, baseball, whatever it is, certainly pass that on and we can talk to coaches, filming, announcing, all sorts of stuff. So let us know if you have a passion, if you feel like you have gifts for a given area or just a desire to do it. We would be happy to get you involved. The schedule is at KMLChargers.com in season, so fall folks, you should see that. Typically, work is assigned. Again, this is for 2 games. We would encourage you that if you can't do it, if you exhaust all your options, try to trade with someone. That's probably the best approach. And then please make sure we know if you do trade with someone, just so we can make sure that on our list for that given day, we have the right people in the right places. Team pictures, more information is coming out. A packet is going out to all the students at orientation, so you'll have all that information in front of you. But I'll just throw a few dates in front of you. Football is obviously the earliest one here, so I did put a time on it as well because school is not in yet. That's August 12th. That's at 11:15. These are team pictures. You can see girls golf, volleyball, soccer, Thursday, August 19th. Cross country and cheer are Wednesday, August 25th. And again, look for more information at orientation. And then photo packages will be coming home through those given coaches. That's all I've got. I am, again, really thankful to have you here. What an exciting time it is for us to get into our next season of sports and to, for a lot of you, get your freshman athlete involved. Blessing to be the activities director here, director of activities now, and thankful to be part of this walk with you during your child's high school career. Again, feel free. If you've got questions, you can come up to the mic. You can see me in the lobby afterwards. You can follow up with me via email. One last thank you to our folks joining us virtually. We are very privileged to serve you, so thank you. Any questions? Spotlight's on you guys now. All right, like I said, I'll be hanging out. Reminder, virtual folks, we disabled the chat function. Shoot us an email. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great night.